All right. Well, good morning and welcome back to Quid Pro Fro. I am the founder, Antoine Stevens Phillips, and today I've got a special guest on the show, Delante Best. He is the founder and proprietor of DL Best Consulting. If you have any questions about AI and how to get AI services interwoven into your business, Delante is the man to talk to. And so we're just going to jump this conversation off, casual conversation as we usually do. So good morning, Delante. What's going on, brother?
Hey, living. We're here. I'm just glad, always glad to talk to my brother Antoine.
Yes, sir,
Yes,
bro. Yes,
sir.
sir. Yes, sir. And it's always good to, chat with you and have you on the show, man. It's March. It's March 20th, the first day of spring in 2025, 3 months
Wow.
into this new Trump Eli presidency, and it's a lot going on, a lot of changes.
Yep.
Before we started the program, we were talking a little bit about how some of the federal workers were kind of being shifted out by this administration. Their focus, the DOGE focus, is efficiency. They want to audit left and right,
That's right.
and there's a lot of services that need to be complete and what have you. And right now, it's it's a little juggernaut because work needs to get done while Doge is getting rid of workers and cutting budgets. So the federal government's work is, some of the work is getting done, but there's a lot of work getting stalled. So
That's
it's
right.
it's a wild time, man.
It is. It is. And I keep hearing, well, it's got to get messy or it's going to be worse before it gets better. I keep hearing that phrase, and maybe that's the case. It's hard to say at this point in some situation. You would hope that you want to pause.
No, no, let's keep going. Let's keep going.
Okay,
Yeah, we're
okay,
good.
cut that. Make sure where everyone is all checked in. But I just think that in a sense, here's the thing. I we're part of the government. We are the government, right? We are the people of the government, right? So we deal with, at least the U.S. We deal with the government every day, no matter how you think about it, right? Whether
Yeah,
whether it's some kind of institutional service that they're going to do, whether as the DMV I was talking about, no one wants to go to the DMV or RMV in some states, no, and sit in those lines for 2 3 hours.
yeah,
If you're dealing with federal student loans, oh my goodness, I
right.
feel bless their heart. Those things. You're gonna be on the call. I know. I had people. My siblings who are dealing directly with the federal government student loan. They're on the call, and the automated message tells them that they're going to be in line for 2 hours. They're going to be on hold for 2 hours, and
Yeah,
you tell somebody they're going to do that. So that's just that's a big hit in the face already. Post office service, things like that. So there's I bring all that up because there has to be a level of efficiency there. I mean, you
yeah.
want that. You want auditing. You want that
Oh yeah.
quality of efficiency and then a good experience when you're dealing with services. You want, even if you're just personal services, when you have vendors come to your home, if they're cutting your grass or working on your roof or something like that, you want good quality service. You want good
Oh
and
yeah.
a good experience.
Oh
So
yeah.
I get it. I understand that aspect of efficiency,
Yeah.
DOGE, if whatever you
Right.
want to call it. And I,
Right.
and there is a need for that. And I also get and before this is not to say I'm for or pro or against. This is not a black or white thing. This is a more
Exactly.
dynamics. We
Yeah.
do need to clean up the government's corruption
Oh
as
yeah.
well as but we also need to clean up a lot of corruption in private industry as well.
Yep.
And so, if there's an expose of that, okay, I'm open to hearing a lot of where is these funds going? Where are the funds going?
Right.
And because as we will talk about in a bit, we understand that historically funds have been used even for nefarious things,
Hmm.
right? That aren't
Hmm.
uh, living up to the expectations for the American people. So,
Right.
but then there are funds that are also going to areas that are good and that need to service the American population. So
Yeah.
there's these balances that are there, and it is a dynamic that is much more complex than just saying, well, no, look at what they're cutting. They're cutting all this. They're going on this. I think there's a conversation of how things are going about.
Right.
Now, we understand very clearly Elon Musk. We saw, at least publicly, even if you weren't there,
Hmm.
but I'm in tech, so I deal with folks in Silicon Valley a lot. And when he
Hmm.
went to Twitter, when he bought out Twitter,
Hmm.
man, he did some massive cuts quickly.
Right. Right.
I mean, he
Very
came in
quickly.
with the machete. He was a
Right.
he was that South African coming in with the machete coming in those jungles and boom 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 and just cutting folks. But what can we say? Twitter's still around.
It's operating,
It's
and
operating, so
it's operating. They say it's more efficient and
it's more
sleek.
efficient. What can I mean? Who am I to say? It's more efficient. He has less people. Now,
Yeah.
my empathetic side said, look, those are families. Those are people who had jobs. They had to feed their families. Now, I hope they were able to get that kind of severance where they
Yeah.
can survive and start looking for other work, whatever work that's out there for them. So that's my hope, right? And
Right.
to some degree, I found that there are people who were able to do that in circles. There was networks of people who were working with. There were actually vendors or third party groups who had um, individuals who were fired or relieved, and they put them on the list, and they were doing the kind of I guess, human resources to move people to other jobs. And so there was a
Yeah.
connector, there was a connection. So it wasn't all completely crazy where people were just left out on the dust. So I want to put that narrative out that there were individuals who were taken care of, were just regular people, I was in contact with them who had been laid off. They had been on the list with certain groups, and they were moved to other companies because of the relationship they had with whether it was Twitter or other tech companies. So there was some move there. So there's a lot to it, and I guess that's what I'm bringing up. And
Hmm.
we know he did do that at Twitter. We're seeing a little bit of a resemblance of that in the federal government now.
Hmm.
And I realize that people are losing jobs. Now, I'm from Washington, D.C., I'm actually from that area. And so I
Hmm.
have a very much personal connection with individuals who work for the federal government and who are laid off. Now, they're being told that they can have a package, right,
Hmm. Yeah.
to relieve themselves, and it's a relatively decent package. I guess the people are doing the math. If you're smart, you do the math and say, okay, can you take this package, retire, or
Right. Right.
have the time enough, the 6 to 8 months of time, where you can start use that package, that severance, to start looking for other jobs. And I think that there is that.
Yeah.
Um, one of my family members opted not to take the package because he was retiring anyways, right? He was going to retire at the end of the year. So it
Hmm.
was a decision by him. That was my uncle who works one of my uncles who works for the Social Security.
Yeah.
He got two of those emails by Elon Musk.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
but again, he's retiring, so it's like, all right, well, I'm going to retire anyway, so I'm just go ahead and take my package at the end
Oh
in
yeah.
my retirement at the end. Others didn't have that, so they're going to have to figure out their situation,
Yeah.
and we just need to be empathetic enough to be there to support that.
Yeah.
Um, Meanwhile, there's going to be folks who are going to protest. You see protests
Oh
against
yeah.
Tesla,
Yep.
protests against Elon,
Yeah.
protests against Trump. This is where I want to have a conversation about the protests, man,
Yeah. Let's
because
have it. Let's have it.
you know, listen, this has been going on for a long time, even before Trump.
Yeah.
Even before Trump. And like I just said, there's been layoffs, massive layoffs in the private sector,
Yeah.
even before Trump got into office.
Hmm.
So there's a cascading effect that's happening already, and I don't want us to be pawns of this, just kind of floating around like, oh yeah, and then blaming just an individual for just the mayhem that's happening. This mayhem has been happening. it's
Right.
it's
Exactly.
been, it's been going
Exactly.
on.
Right.
And for Americans, but especially Black Americans,
Definitely.
what's the saying? When white America gets, a cold, we get like the flu,
Yep.
the
The flu or pneumonia.
pneumonia, all right? And so this has been going on. People, we've been dealing with this for so long
Yeah. Yeah. That's
that
true.
it, I think we want to reimagine and strategize a vision of what we're going to do in the world, whether Trump is there or not.
Right.
And I
Yep.
believe that's what, Meditate TV, Just Meditate TV and Quid Pro is about, is that it's not just,
Hmm.
the here and now where, okay, yeah, we got President Trump in there. Well, even before then, we had some troubles when Biden was
Ooh.
there.
Ooh. We had some troubles. Man.
We had issues. We had issues. So
Yeah.
the issue now, what we're talking about is strategy here,
Yes.
right? Of
Yep.
how we're going to go beyond just blaming an individual who's in the public office, which he's culpable of the issues that he's put up to, and that the executive branch and the DOGE, yes, but they're not the only reason why we're in the problem that we're in today as
Right.
Americans and
Yes.
even Black Americans. So I want this conversation, and there are conversations going on, and we're a part of those about
Hmm.
making sure that we are empowering each other as brothers,
Yes.
sisters, but especially these brothers, men taking on certain levels of leadership right
Hmm.
now,
Yep.
right? And I want you guys to jump in because I feel like I'm talking a lot here. But leadership, right?
Yeah.
At this
Absolutely.
moment, those who can do it, those who have the capability of and the know-how,
Hmm.
whether it's the financial foundation to do it and intellectual foundation, which is just as important, more important, in fact, to
Hmm.
be able to lead right now. But that's what we need. We need more, we need leadership. We need
That's
people
it.
stepping up. It doesn't matter, and again, it could be Trump, it could be Biden, shit, it could be even Obama in office. We
Right.
had Obama in office, and we still were having trouble. We were having trouble. We had issues. We had
Yeah.
economic issues. We had
Yeah.
black men, young black men getting killed under Obama.
That's true.
We had more police brutality under Obama. So let's not act like there's a savior. This is not
Right.
Jesus Christ that's in the crown right there in the public office now.
Right. Right.
So let's not
I
think
mean,
people.
I mean, it should be, but
It should be. We would love that, right? We
right. We can't find a Jesus Christ in a Christian nation.
in a Christian nation. How about that? Go figure. Go figure.
Now, now, if that ain't irony, boy,
Oh
whew.
my goodness. Oh my goodness. But a lot of us thought that even Obama was going to walk on water and turn water water to wine. No, it's not. That's too simplistic, folks.
Yeah,
That's too simplistic. We
yeah,
have to do stuff. We
that's
have
it.
to work. We have to work too. We're not going to just wait on the president to do things. Now, again, he's a part of a governmental institution that's supposedly democratic, right?
Hmm.
As a
Yeah.
democratic republic in which we live in,
Hmm.
apparently, allegedly. right? So
Right.
say
Allegedly.
allegedly,
Right.
right? But
Right.
let's just go by that this is a democratic republic, so therefore the president is still, a part of that body of our government, which is
Yeah.
our people, and so he's not, and in all, um, God, he still
Most
has to
definitely.
answer in some ways. Now, he
Yeah.
answers to someone else's certain aspects that we'll go through, but
Hmm.
we still what that means to me is that there's an effort of work that we have to take on as
Definitely.
individuals, and as black men, an incredible uh, opportunity here
Yeah.
where we've been educated, we've been hit by certain aspects where there's a resilience that we've taken on because we've been hit and hit and hit and hit and hammered
Yeah.
both by that very oligarchy that we were speaking of,
Yeah.
but even our own
Yeah.
people who
Yeah.
are very much organized in their own way by this oligarchy without even knowing it.
Mm.
They've been pushing back on the progress in
Oh
which we
yeah.
need as a people. And so I think there's an opportunity for those who have the know-how to take on that leadership, and I believe that that's really where we are today. We have it. There's a good space and section of our population is a small percentage,
Hmm.
and it's probably always going to be small as we see through history. There's a small percentage of our population that is going to take on that.
Hmm.
And I'm very open to collaborating with those individuals, right?
Yep.
And making sure
Yep.
that we can begin to lead. So on the financial stuff, which you're going to talk about, on technological aspects,
Hmm.
on our diaspora and
Yeah.
return of that, really
Yep.
is where I see a lot of our centralization, our unification is going back to our diaspora and our uh, our continent,
Hmm.
and not just physically there, but also just mentally there and spiritually
Hmm.
there.
Hmm.
Those are things, those are opportunities right now that we can just yield and take on, and
Oh yeah.
I'm excited about that as we move through this kind of weird and strange type of world that we're living in.
Yeah. It's
I'm really
evolving for
excited
sure. It's evolving, man, and you make some really good points. I do want to let my audience know that we have a another speaker, Chance McGee, who will be joining us here. Chance is a cartoonist and an illustrator. He's worked with companies such as Netflix and AMD. So I definitely want to welcome Chance on. Chance, we've been just talking a little bit about some of the changes that Doge and Elon is making right now. And before you joined, we were just talking a little bit about how uh, there's a lot of changes. This administration has uh, been in place for 3 months, and there are a lot of federal workers uh, being given buyout opportunities, options, as well as Doge cutting budgets at the very same time. So we're in this period where some Americans and folks around the world are protesting what Donald Trump and Elon's Doge group is doing, and some of that protest looks like rallies. Some of that protest looks like targeting Tesla vehicles around the
about.
world. Um, but then there's also another side that is observing what Doge is doing and kind of coming to the conclusion that the American people voted in November for a change in government, a change in direction in the United States policy, and Donald Trump, Doge, and Elon is that's what you got. So them coming in making these changes, it's like this is what America voted for. Some folks to come in to audit, to get rid of wasteful spending, to identify where spending has been going over these last 4 years.
Mhm.
And there's just a group of Americans that want to see efficiency from the government. And to be honest with you, I guess, I'm kind of in a situation where I agree with Delante that there has to be some there has to be some auditing. There has to be some accountability. There has to be some changes. Like the United States government is operating on technology as old as the 50s and 60s. So I totally agree with the digit digitization, Lord have mercy, of of a lot of our programs and what have you. While at the same time, there's got to be some empathy with folks who have been working for some time and they still have bills to pay. They still have families to take care of. They still have a lifestyle, a life that they have to preserve. And if they're going to receive buyouts and things like that, it has to be fair. Um, and, one thing we don't want to see is we don't want to see the American people take a bigger hit than what they already taken over these last 4 years. So that's kind of where we're at right now. Um, like I said, I I'm somebody that feels as though our government needs to be uh, revamped for sure. I want to make sure that our government is smaller, more efficient, and more tax dollars are freed up for the necessary investments in our infrastructure here. I would like to see more tax dollars freed up for um, just programs and activities that are showing to benefit Americans first. You know, um, but do you got any thoughts on that, Chance?
I think you might on mute. You're on mute.
Oh yeah, there we go.
Yeah, there we go.
That's such an interesting topic, and I came in at the height of what Delante was saying about this whole process, and what it means. It's always high level with the two of you. It's always high level. It's always super high level.
Oh, you
So
know it, man. We
I
jumping from
missed
the free
a
throw
little
line,
bit,
bro.
but
No,
it's super high level. So thoughts on that are interesting. You mentioned that I'm an illustrator, um, and I've done work for companies.
mhm.
But another thing that's important to mention is that I haven't lived in America for over 12 years now. I just
Okay.
haven't. That hasn't been my home for 12 years.
Yes.
And the other thing, and it's important to mention that because that gives me a different perspective on what's
Yes.
happening, a different
Yes.
perspective. Because I'm black, but I'm American wherever I
Hmm.
go, and I've been to a lot of places, and people interact with me first as a black person and then as an
Hmm.
American, and
Yeah.
that's something that changes depending on where you go. But the world has a different idea of America than it did 12 years ago when I first came to Germany. The
Mm.
world has a very different idea of America now,
Break it
and
down for us.
it's interesting to look at that perspective when we talk about what's happening right now in America, because this idea of America first is something that we only got a taste of in Trump's first presidency. And it was
Okay.
always kind of like taken out of context, and people always tried to turn it into some weird, like, how Hitler type of thing. It was always this thing
Yeah.
that was treated as like, this is what you're not supposed to say in Europe, and they're saying it in America. But now we're getting a different taste of it now because of Elon Musk, because of this discussion about government waste. America first sounds different to the world now,
Yeah.
because what people are hearing is, oh, they mean like getting rid of bureaucracy. And a lot of Germans, where I live in Germany, a
Yeah.
lot of Germans hear that word bureaucracy and they think hell.
Mm.
Mm.
That word means
Oh.
hell to them, because you can't get nothing done in Germany because of the bureaucracy. Germany has a lockdown right now in its government. they had new elections after having the previous elections. This whole election cycle has been clogged up because there's a party in Germany which sounds similar to the Trump movement. It has a different flavor and it's doing something else.
Yeah.
But there's a party in Germany called the AfD, the Alternative for Deutschland, the Alternative for Germany party. And you know, a lot of people are supporting them in Germany. But Germany is not America, because you don't win an election based on getting 51% of the votes. That's not how it works here. It's a party system. And without going into all the details, that just means that what the people think is not that important. That's really what it means. Because the bureaucracy is what controls the system. In Europe, in Germany, the EU, it's a big bureaucracy. Nothing gets done. It's just paperwork. You know, and so when people hear America first now, when they hear it now, they go America over bureaucracy. It sounds different. It sounds different. And Trump, you know, Trump has a different tone to him. You know, there's all these things in Germany, and, you know, Europe has a different flavor. But for me, as somebody who lives in Europe, as a Black American who's experienced this last 12, 13 years of ebbs and flows and how people perceive me, how people perceive my country, how people perceive, the political, discussion there, what I've noticed is that people are scared. People are scared right now because they don't really know what this means. And the fear in Europe is America is turning its back on us because they're focusing on themselves more.
Okay.
And that's a really important thing. That's a really important thing for people to feel. It's like when America really makes itself first, when we say America first, that means y'all, Ukraine and all the other stuff, like all this like regime change, the way that, Delante, you brought up, this divide and conquer empire games, money, all that stuff is secondary. All that comes later. And that creates a shift.
Yeah.
And I'm sensing it when I talk to people. It's like, so what are we supposed to do? Who's going to help us against Russia? It's like, well, hold on now. Now we can have a real discussion about this now. We couldn't have that discussion before.
Right.
And I think when you talk about DOGE, when you talk about what's happening in America, as somebody who's looking at it, from a distance and seeing how it's affecting the world as an American, like that's my feeling, and that's what I would add to the discussion, because I think there's something remarkable that's happening in America, and it's shaping the landscape of the world. And me as an American living abroad, I'm starting to see people, it's like, oh, you mean we have to do it all on our own now? You mean we got to figure this out on our own? You mean America's not going to be the one? It's like, y'all, come on now. We don't want to be the police no more. That's the whole point. That's the whole point. Like, we don't want to do that no more. Oh, but then that means we got to do it. We got to because we was talking all that, crap, to Putin.
Yeah.
We puffing our chest out, with Big Bro behind us, Uncle Sam behind us. And now Uncle Sam's like, actually, no, we got some stuff in our backyard we got to work on. And it's a big project. It's a big project.
Yeah.
So that's my thoughts. But then there's another aspect, which is as a Black man, as a father. But I wanted to bring that up in like another topic.
Absolutely. And we'll definitely get to that, because that is one of the fundamental points of creating Quid Pro Fro, a new heritage protection agency for foundational Black American boys and men. And Just Meditate TV is a multimedia company that's focusing on bringing in the hard capital for the new heritage protection agency. So I appreciate you sharing that, Chance, because that is a different perspective. Delante is and myself, we're in America right now, and you're in Germany, and what you're saying, I can see that through policy. That's the only thing that will logically make sense. If America is going, hard towards, America first policies, which doesn't mean that, we're leaving our allies out, but that does mean that we're taking a business first perspective where we're looking at, you know, the accountability of tax dollars. And this is something that the administration keeps saying. For example, with the last administration, um, this Trump and Elon have been saying that, you know, Biden is giving anywhere from 280 billion to 350 billion to Ukraine, and that wasn't even in the form of a loan. That was strictly just, hey, we're here to help y'all fight Russia because Russia initiated this war. While at the same time, there are others of us that understand that Biden and his family have personal connections in Ukraine. And as Biden was finishing up his presidential run and needed a serious surge of capital and money, that came from Ukrainian oligarchs. So in some sense, I do agree with the stance of Donald Trump when it comes to us not giving countries like Ukraine a blank check and saying, here you go. Anytime you come over, we got 80 billion to 120 billion dollars for you. Whereas Americans were experiencing hyperinflation, prices of everything was out of control as the Biden administration was wrapping up. What you did not hear from the president was hyperinflation is happening. American citizens are basically saying that, they got to tighten their budget. Groceries, gas, rent is starting to get out of control. Let's give Americans a piece of their own tax dollars through a stipend. You did not hear this administration say anything like that. So again, in some sense, I agree with the President Donald Trump, saying we have to review how we help our allies. It has to make sense to us first, business wise, because if it doesn't make sense to us business wise, then again, we're going to keep writing these checks with nothing tied to it. But then at the same time, while we're writing these checks, when it comes to trade, there are certain line items of trade where our European partners are charging us up the wazoo when it comes to tariffs, when it comes to whiskey, when it comes to cheese, when it comes to certain things that are being imported. We're getting charged anywhere from 120 to 200% in tariffs.
Mm.
Yet we're forking up the most money to help the EU. So I'm with continuing to be a total ally and a total friend to our partners in Europe and around the world. But America has to clean up its budget. It's getting out of control. We're close to between 36 and 38 trillion dollars in debt, and we owe China about 1.5 trillion of debt. With some of the changes that DOGE is making, cutting back in certain areas, there's an opportunity that we could pay off the debt to China. Totally pay off that 1.2, 1.5 trillion dollar debt to China and get China totally off our back and say, you are 100% a competitor, versus you're a competitor, but we still got some bills to pay to you. So we gonna, you know what I'm saying? We gonna take the soft approach. You know what I mean? So the efficiency is crucial. The auditing is crucial. Updating our technology and things like that is crucial. While at the same time, America has to be weary about, if we are deciding to focus American taxpayer dollars on our country, what type of void, what type of vacuum is that leaving for Europe, to do, as far as, like you're saying, Chance, Now Germany has to think about, okay, America is going back to an American first policy. Okay, so how are we going to protect ourselves from Russia? A lot of gas was being received from Russia. I think Germany was receiving, like, at one point, almost 70 to 80% gas from Russia, and there's been some changes to that. But I think if it were not for Donald Trump pointing that out, how can we call Russia an enemy when 70 to 80% of the gas that's necessary, the energy to run the country, is coming from the enemy?
Hmm.
So taking a top-down approach and saying, okay, let's get back to what makes sense business wise. If it does not make sense business wise, it has to be looked into, and it potentially has to go, because we are in a time right now where we're basically in a time where there's a potential for China as a country to develop the relationships globally to surpass and even replace the United States in many ways. And it's already been happening.
Sure.
In South America, already happening. The majority of South American countries are currently stronger partners with China than they are with the United States. That's the same thing.
Africa too.
Go ahead.
Africa too.
Africa,
Africa too.
Africa
Africa,
as well,
Caribbean,
the Middle East,
Middle East. Yep.
Saudi Arabia.
To
Hmm.
be
I,
honest, I have
you
to say
know,
I feel like that shift has already happened. Like
yeah,
America already lost the number one spot. It doesn't mean
okay,
that China took it.
right,
It just means the number one spot has been divided between a few different places now. It used to only belong
yeah,
to America, but now
mm-hmm,
that number one spot is also China. It's also America. It's
yeah,
also the emerging economies of Africa too, and India. Like they're all kind of filling in, Russia in a way. That's why this idea of like who's gonna maintain number one for me feels like an outdated idea. If I'm being honest,
okay, yeah,
it feels like how do we replace who's the leader with a system that allows all nations to develop simultaneously? How do we create a system of checks and balances where fairness is the starting point? And for me,
mm-hmm,
that discussion goes in a completely different direction, because if you have that discussion and all you're talking about is geopolitics, then it's kind of hard to find a solution. But if you have that discussion and you're talking about emerging technologies like artificial intelligence, the
okay,
blockchain, when you start
mm-hmm,
talking about those things, then suddenly like there's a very real possibility for a multipolar structure to emerge within our lifetime, certainly,
yeah,
that looks very different than anything we've seen in our lifetime, anything our parents have seen. I don't know what that would have looked like aside from going back to maybe the Silk Road, like that whole process of trade between countries where, ideas, technology, traditions, food, stories, all
Hmm.
those things were being transferred along a route that was mediated through the idea of everyone offering something valuable that's unique to who they are.
mm-hmm,
But there is no one country that's owning it. There's no one country that's like, it's not like the British Empire model, like we allow you to trade on our seas, but we take a tax, the British East India model, right?
yeah,
It's
yeah,
not the banking model of today. We allow you to, hold your money in our banks, and we provide the ledgers to, verify things, but we take a tax. It was a
Hmm.
system that was mediated on what do you have to offer, what's the value of it. Come up front, you deserve a spot, and the value of what you have to offer is what determines your place, not, you know what I mean, the country
mm-hmm,
or the geopolitical reference that you have. And I think that's the world that we can begin to start to see, but it's going to take some adjustments to how we frame ourselves as nations and countries, and that's already happening.
yeah,
AI and crypto are already doing it, and we're just
mm-hmm,
not ready for it, but it's already happening right now. that's that's
yeah,
that's my take on that.
oh yeah, oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah. I do. I love that. That's well. you're right, Chance, and that's where a lot of this kind of leadership was going to be taking place, right? Where we begin to get in on some of these things and be out in front of it, right? I want us to be the builders of it too, because right now we're still consumers of that.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I'll talk about majority of Americans, and especially Black Americans. Uh, you know, we're consumers of these types of tools and assets, if you will. And
Hmm.
so I want to make sure that we begin to do the kind of building that's necessary to be out in front of it and control
Yes.
that too. Because
Yeah.
unfortunately, to your point, what we have is, for example, BlackRock. Who's the biggest holder of Bitcoin right now? Do you guys? I think it's BlackRock now. BlackRock's number one. Something
Maybe.
like that. You know, you can
It may be.
take a look at that. You
They're
Yeah.
know,
definitely in top five for sure.
it's definitely top five, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
And so those very same institutions that you're talking about, Chance, who we're trying to curve around, they're getting in on it too, right? They know. They say, "Oh, wait a second." They see that kind of revolution that you're describing, and they're coming in with
Hmm.
their war chest and their philosophy of the imperial philosophy, right? And
Hmm.
they're making it known that they still want to be on top. They still want to have that power,
Hmm.
right? And so we have a fight at hand, right? There's it's not going to be an easy one. It's definitely. I agree that there's a revolution that's taken place, both intellectually, financially, spiritually, but it's going to come with guns blazing, if you will, if I can say that. We the fight, they're not going to lay down. You know, they're like, oh yeah, you know, wipe their heads. Yep, we're just going to let them these underlings just take control. No, 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 no. They've learned through history that those revolutions can get kind of nasty. So
Oh
they're
yeah.
coming in with their own basis and say they want to get out in front and making sure that they still have a certain level of power over and dominion over these types of assets and tools that
Yeah.
are there.
Yeah.
So my recommendation here is still, you know, making sure that we are strong on these assets and
Hmm.
producers,
Yeah.
right, of these assets, because uh, once we have control, especially control of our own data, it's going to be hard to to move us and sway us in certain areas. But right
Yeah.
now we're still consumers of it, and
Yeah.
that concerns me dearly.
Yeah.
I see that uh, you know, we're late to the game. We're in the game in a way, but we're still a little bit late. We're like almost a step late.
Yeah.
And I want us to move a little bit faster on this because it's they are going at a swift pace, as you see.
Yeah.
I mean, they're putting billions into this,
Yeah.
into getting AI,
Yep.
um, you know, making sure that there is the crypto is reserved in a specific area, and how's that going to be controlled? And you guys can talk a little more about that, how
Hmm.
that's going to be controlled, because now we're talking about reserves
Yep.
of crypto that
Yeah.
are going to be taken away from certain levels of our population. And there's a scarcity to that, right? I mean,
Hmm.
that's the whole basis of, you know, even Bitcoins is a major
Yeah.
scarcity, and only the founder, whoever that is,
Yeah.
has a good amount of that
Yeah.
Bitcoin. So, you know, this
Which
scarcity.
which is which is interesting. Just to say on the side, like
Yeah.
Satoshi has the number one spot,
Well, the
way
number
above
one spot, right?
BlackRock. Yeah, he's the number one. You
Okay,
know,
number one, and then
which is very
BlackRock, right?
interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah,
It is.
and
It
so
really is.
who is that guy? I mean, Scottie Pippen. So I don't, you know, it's hard to say, you know, whoever that is. I mean, I hope it's, as a citizen, right? Like you and
Yeah,
I. Supposedly it is. Netflix seems to think that they have the answers to it, but with their documentary. But I
they're
just
killing it. Whoever it is killing
they're killing it. They're killing it.
it.
And they got a lot of sway in the world right now,
Yeah,
because it's shifted us in certain directions. But
yeah,
let me just get back to that point, my point, and hammer on the point. Producers, we gotta be producers, right?
yep,
Of these
yep,
things, man, and that's really going to be key of as we move forward in this process.
yeah. And that's a really good point because our economy is being revolutionized, it's evolving. Like you're saying, we need data centers
Yep.
to house this information that Americans and Europeans and others are using these platforms around the world, social media platforms, etc. You need data centers for AI. Also, one of the things that I would like to encourage, um, you know, whether it be Black American entrepreneurs, hi,
Hey.
whether it be Black American entrepreneurs, Black European entrepreneurs, or Black African entrepreneurs on the continent, one of the things I would like to encourage is for folks from our community who have a certain level of business success, a certain level of serious capital investment capability to take the lead on, um, you know, securing our ability to be the producers in certain areas, like you're saying, Delante, whether it be, the race to establish semiconductor manufacturing plants and produce these microchips.
Hmm.
I've noticed that. I'm glad, Donald Trump has, kind of waking up and saying, hold on, wait, why are the microchip producing plants, why are they in Taiwan? Why are they not here on the mainland? If they're so important for the revolution of the smartphone, AI, we need these components in our laptops, whatever. Why aren't we manufacturing it here on the mainland? That mentality to me is it's a policy of it's just a policy that just doesn't make sense to me. And I would like to see more again, Black American, Black European, just Black folks who are billionaires who have capital to take the lead in um, having ownership of some of these extremely important equitable assets, but also making sure that the manufacturing plants and things like that of, let's say, an AI company or a semiconductor company or a company that helps to produce fourth generation nuclear power plants, which is necessary to produce all this electricity that we're going to need for AI. Like, I would like to see a representative from our community take the lead,
Mm.
get a nice stake in those conversations, and then make sure that these companies, corporations, and manufacturing plants are in cities and states where Black Americans are,
That's right.
even in Europe, even in the Caribbean or even in Africa. You know, there's a lot of folks in our community, who are well off. They're more interested in, I take my hat off to their ability to some of them to come from rags to riches. Totally take my hat off to them. But I see a lot of well off folks from our community. Obviously, they're investing in real estate. That is crucial. But outside of real estate, there's a lot of investment in, ownership of sports teams, and things like that. I'm not really hearing, Black Americans wanting to take part in some of these futuristic, revolutionary, must-have forms of technology, which will dominate the planet. And so it would be amazing to finally see someone who looks like us, bidding on a new semiconductor manufacturing plant and making sure that manufacturing plant is stationed in LA, stationed in Chicago, stationed in Detroit, stationed in Atlanta, versus the semiconductor manufacturing plant being stationed in the suburbs of conservative Arizona, which I have no issues with, but some of these some of the locations are very strategic and they lack diversity for a reason,
Mm.
and it's buying time that we see changes in that area. So that's one thing we can definitely look forward to is more advanced um, investments to be made in the area of technology, to be made in the area of telecommunications. That's going nowhere. And as I don't know if you guys were watching, but we're at a point where we may see this administration and DOGE, Elon, speaking of technology, these guys just rescued I believe 3 or 4 astronauts that were stranded on the International Space Station.
Yeah.
I think they were stranded for about 7 months. So that's another area. We're not just talking about AI. We're not just talking about crypto. We're not just talking about investing in semiconductor manufacturing plants that produce these microchips that are much needed. We're also talking about further space exploration, possibly building a space station on the moon,
Mm.
traveling further into the solar system, possibly to Mars. These are things that we're going to see in our lifetime. I want to make sure that there are more folks who look like us that have a strong stake in these contracts, in these corporations, and these companies that are taking these areas to the next level. So this is
Bro,
this is go ahead.
you went so high. I swear, man, this is why I love this discussion with the two of you brothers, because it's like, sometimes I have conversations with people and it's up here, but it just stays up here. And then
Yeah,
sometimes you're just talking about politics in the world and it just stays here. But we get the
right.
whole spectrum. We get the
That's
whole
it.
spectrum every time on these discussions. So I feel like the whole chakra lineup is being activated, the root all the way up to the sacral. Like the whole thing is like lighting up every time we talk. And it's something that's so beautiful about the ability to have this discussion with other black men,
That's right.
because there's this topic I keep wanting to talk about, but I'm gonna mention it now because it actually it
Yeah.
fits really well with what we're talking about here about how to bring the leadership of our people
Yes.
into these areas where the future is being determined, so that we're
Yes.
not late to the game, so that we're not just consumers, so we're not just a few steps behind. And I just came back from Brazil. I was there for 2 weeks
Hmm.
as part of a Umbande ayahuasca ceremony.
Hmm.
And I'm not going to get into all that. If you want to know about that, you can maybe watch a Joe Rogan podcast or read a book on DMT because it's incredible.
Hmm.
But the ceremony I went to was from an Afro-Indigenous shamanic tribe there in
Mm.
Brazil, in
Okay.
Bahia. Bahia.
Bahia.
Bahia has it's a little state in Brazil along the coast, the
Yeah.
northeast coastal part. And Bahia is the blackest part in Brazil, the blackest part. You have the
Wow.
highest percentage of black people in Brazil, like actual full black. There's even
Yes.
people who still speak a watered down version of Yoruban.
Y'all Robin.
They still speak a little watered down version of it. And
Mm.
Bahia has the second highest concentration of descendants of the Yoruban people outside of Nigeria.
Mm. Okay.
Mm.
The second highest number outside of Africa is in Bahia in Brazil. That's where I was to go to the ceremony.
Hmm.
And when I tell you that I connected to my people, I'm telling you I connected to my people. I
That's it.
connected to my people, like for real, because
Yeah.
I was walking down the street and I saw people. I saw a guy selling jackfruit, look just like my dad.
Oh wow.
My father died, 6 years ago. I was like, what is going on? Is that daddy? I saw
Right.
another
Wow.
guy look like my cousin. He saw me. I waved at him. Bonjour, and he started speaking Portuguese. I'm like, I'm American. Yeah, you're so.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm also American. It's like, yeah, damn, like they have a different identity, like
Yeah.
the way that they think, the way they talk, the way they move is different. And when I was there, what I discovered is that there's a lot of people in the Western world, because that's
Hmm.
where we come from. We don't come
Yes.
from Africa. We come from America. We're very
Come from
westernized.
America. Yes.
That we are. And I live in Germany, more westernized, more. It's all here. Germany's all here in the head. And I got very much like that. I was here for 10, 12 years. It's a minute.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you go to a place like that, it's like a small little ceremony. 15, 20 people. Everybody's coming there to heal, to work on things, to discover aspects of themselves that they've forgotten, to remember things about themselves that they've forgotten.
Mm-hmm.
And I was the only Black person in that room.
Wow.
In a state full of Black people who look like me. I was the only Black person in that room. The only one. And that's not to say like everybody else was like European. I mean, there's a lot of people coming from, Native American traditions, like from Brazil, who have, parents who look like me and they just happen to be lighter. They're mixed with Native American. Like, my kids are mixed, and I consider them Black, but if they were in the room, I would feel like I was the only Black one there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And what happened is I noticed throughout the ceremony that they came for the same reason I came, to connect to their ancestors.
Mm-hmm.
They came for the same reason I came, to let go of stuff they're having trouble letting go of, to find some semblance of faith in this world, because people are losing faith. And the demographics in that room were very diverse, but the number one demographic were the Jewish people.
Okay.
They were the number one demographic that came to the ceremony. Every ceremony I've gone to, it's a big chunk of Jewish people who are there because they want to heal. They want to heal right now. The world ain't making sense to them in Israel. And I'm talking about real Jewish brothers, like real ones.
Yeah.
Where you talk to them and it's like, I'm singing the spiritual and I forget the words and they start filling in the words to the Negro spirituals. I'm talking about those types of Jewish people. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
When you say go down Moses, they know the rest of the song. They know the rest of it, And it's like, I'm there with them and I'm hearing them open up about how much sadness that they feel in the world, how much the world don't make sense to them. Things don't make sense to them.
Yeah.
And I realized very quickly, it's like, why am I the only Black person here?
Yep.
Like these people are coming here to heal. They're coming here to do work. These ayahuasca ceremonies are full of people from Silicon Valley who are trying to figure out how to align AI so that it doesn't kill us. It's full of people who are, starting up their own cryptos. It's full of all these like startups and people, and they're coming.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of like affluent people in these circles who are, high achievers.
Yeah.
But like, why come my people ain't there though? You know what I mean? Like, why come we ain't? This is our tradition. This is actually our tradition.
Yep. That's a great question.
And what I noticed, and it became so apparent to me, it's like the thing the Jewish people understand is they understand community. They understand it.
Yeah.
You don't even have to speak Hebrew. You can be a Jewish person in Poland speaking Yiddish.
Yep.
And you go to Jordan and you run into a Jewish community, they gonna bring you in the home. Come in.
Yep.
I'm helping you out. We don't even speak the same language. I'm helping you out. That sense of community is so strong in the Jewish community. Yeah. It don't matter where they are. They can build together. They can build wherever they are because they have a very strong sense of community. And I'm out here in Brazil having a hard time having a conversation with somebody who looked just like my daddy. You know what I mean?
Right.
And like, to me, it's just like language. But like, he got his shirt off. He playing dominoes later. I'm like, we play dominoes where I'm from. He's slamming the dominoes on the table saying, bonjour, bonjour. Like I don't know what he said. It's like I know that. I seen
Right.
that,
Yeah.
and I felt something, but it was like this feeling like I don't know who this person is. Like I'm out here in
Right.
Brazil. People be getting robbed in Brazil. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and I felt that Western thing come in, that American thing come in. Like you got to be safe.
Right.
Watch your back,
Right.
man. You can't be, somebody. You can't be out there stunting. You better
Right.
watch where you at, bro. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
that voice creeps in. It creeps in, and
Now,
then
now
it's.
don't turn down street smarts now.
I know, I know. You're
Right.
right.
Don't do not
You really got to
Yeah,
watch out. You really got to
yeah.
watch
don't
out.
shy away from street smarts.
But
But
what I'm trying to get
yeah,
at, is like
yeah.
I think the discussion with our people when it comes to Black people,
Hmm.
because this discussion is like it's going up here, it's going down here, it's going everywhere, and it's like it's where it needs to be because we're talking about the places that we need to be investing in, the places where we need to get up out in the front. And I think a big part of it, and this is something I resonate with the two of you. I feel that with
Hmm.
the two of you because you know
Hmm.
who you are, Antoine. Antoine
Yes,
talks
sir.
like a damn king when he talks.
Yes,
He
sir.
has no back ain't slouched. Okay,
Yes,
Delante,
sir.
he knows who he is. He will school you on the history of America, the history of Europe, the history of Mexico, and tell
Right.
you things of what I mean. He knows who he is. He knows where he
Yeah.
comes from, and
Yeah.
it's like I feel a sense of community with you, but I feel like that's the main thing missing within the Black people is a sense of community because the
Yep.
diaspora is so big.
Yeah.
It's so big.
Yes, it
It's
is.
bigger than the Jewish community,
Yep.
but it's not as connected. It's not as connected. And I
Yep.
think that connection it looks different though. It looks different because what they do with the tradition of the Umbande is they practice the religious practices of the Yoruban people from Africa that are thousands of years old. They use the technology of the drums, which is thousands of years old. They
Oh
tell
yeah.
the same stories from an
Yeah.
oral tradition in a different language, which is thousands of years old. And they
Hmm.
move their body in ways that comes out that is all in the genetics.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That's way older than thousands of years old.
Yeah.
And it expresses itself uniquely in Brazil. It expresses itself uniquely in Cuba. It expresses itself uniquely in different parts of Africa, in India. Don't get it
Yep.
twisted. The yogic
Yep.
tradition comes, you look at them people doing the yoga, they look like us.
Yep.
Some of them darker than us. It
Yep. You're
expresses
right.
itself different around the world. And the diaspora is 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 calling its people back. Not back home, not to Africa. I think that's the thing that we get confused on. We
Right.
got and we should go back. We should. But to come home is different for us.
Yeah.
To come home is to go in here to see our brother and know that that's, you know what I mean? Like that's the
Yeah.
diaspora, that's the home. And to come back to that is something that when we really start to connect to that tradition, when I say I'm an American, but I also know that my brother in Brazil is American. I also know my brother in Cuba is American. I also know, that the people who look like me, who different traditions, different cultures, we come from the same place. We all home because the diaspora is big. And when we connect to that, like on a real level,
Yeah.
we can change the world. And it's going to be the Americans, the North Americans, Black
Hmm.
folks like us.
Yeah.
It's always been us that have to take the leadership on it. It
Yep.
always is us. But we got to do it different this time because we got to connect to all of us now. That's
Yep.
the part that was talked about. W.B. Du Bois talked about that.
Yep.
Marcus Garvey talked about it.
Yep.
Malcolm
Malcolm
X
X.
talked about it towards the end of his life. They
Yep.
all talked about it. They all was getting there. They were getting there. But like now it's time to fully connect to the diaspora, to take all of us, and then we drive that ship to Mars or wherever we want to go. But we bringing all of us. We bringing the drums too.
That's right.
Yeah, we bringing the drums, and we bringing
That's
our,
right.
our our traditions and our art. We bringing
That's
all
it.
that stuff to Africa. You know what I mean?
Unapologetically.
Unapologetic, all of us.
That's
And
it.
that I think that's like, you know what I mean? Like that's kind of like the image that's starting to come to my mind more and more. It's like we built the future with our ancestors. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
We built the future with our ancestors, not just the ones on the slave fields, but the
Hmm.
artists thousands of years ago who were making the most beautiful art in Africa. The Yoruba, we bring all of them. We bring all of them into the future.
Yes, sir. No, you're making some really good points, and I definitely want to I definitely want to expound on that. I know that we got uh we're coming close to wrapping up our conversation. I know Delante has another meeting to jump on. Chance, if you're available to continue to have conversations, we can. You guys just gotta let me know what you're doing, and I can figure things out from there. But I totally agree with what you're saying. This is a conversation that is one of the reasons again why I just wanted to start a new heritage protection agency, because to the point that you're making, Chance, in 2020, when I saw innocent black boys and black men lives being taken left and right, and I saw a lot of the organizations and institutions and the leaders that are supposed to come together to unify, to be on one page and speak to the betterment, to the protection of Black American men and women and children, as well as to our diaspora, I wasn't seeing it. I was seeing a lot of different voices from different areas, a lot of contributions in different areas, but I wasn't seeing a somebody to come and unify that. You know what I mean? No different than you go to a symphony or orchestra, you got a master violinist, a master person playing a French horn. But in the beginning of the symphony or orchestra, everybody's testing their instruments out, just
Right.
playing whenever, and it's just, whatever. But it's not until a conductor comes, a master conductor comes, and is able to bring all of those different instruments into unification. In 2020, I wish I saw that. I didn't see that. And I'm not calling out anybody or any particular organization or association. I'm just saying within our community, I just did not see that. I didn't see us unified. I didn't see us on the same page. And I wanted to create uh this quid pro fro to be that unifying element. Now, that doesn't mean that Quid Pro Fro and Just Meditate TV is going to be accepted in the Caribbean and in Africa and South America, or even in the United States. But I want to bring it to the attention of Black Americans in our diaspora and Black Africans across the country or across the world, that we got to have a unified effect. Otherwise, what you're saying, Chance, that that community, that unity that you saw with some of our Caucasian Hebrew brothers and sisters in Brazil, it may be a long time before we see that.
Mm.
And one of my goals is, how can we, as conscious, effective leaders, how can we bring that together now in our lifetime with no excuses, no excuses, no no excuses, whatever it takes, whatever leaders we need to talk to, whatever organizations we need to talk to, whatever impact we need to have, let's have it. Because within our lifetime, okay, Delante, we'll look forward to catching you on the next one.
Yeah.
Always appreciate your input, and God bless you, and enjoy the rest of your day. Until next time, brother.
Yes,
Lovely
sir.
conversation. Thanks, fellas. I'll talk to you all
Absolutely.
later.
Okay, absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Um, and so, Chance, you and I, we can continue this conversation until you let me know, the time frame for you. But the point that
I got a
you
good 30
made,
minutes. A good 30
okay,
minutes, yeah.
okay. But the point that you made about going to Brazil and seeing some of our Caucasian Hebrew brothers and sisters there unifying, seeking spiritual healing, spiritual soothing, connecting with our ancestors, whether it be through our traditional music, whether it be through some traditional dance, whether it be through our art and culture that our ancestors um, uniquely engaged in. We got to tap back into that. We got to know who we are first and foremost. We got to know where we come from. We got to know what we've overcome. That's what gives me strength. When I wake up in the morning, I understand that I'm a black man living in America, while at the same time, I understand that my my ancestry comes from, dynasties of kings, of emperors, and of peacemakers, but then also some were warlords. But I've taken the time to do the necessary research. I've taken the time to do the necessary DNA testing. I've taken the time to do the homework to understand, you know, going back to the times of Kush, going back to the times of Kemet, and from then all the way till now, our ancestors, elders, and seniors have always had to overcome some serious hardships. And the main ingredient of overcoming hardships, whether it be slavery, whether it be famine, whether it be poverty, whether it be war, whether it be division that's engineered by communities outside of our community, or whether it be division within ourselves. We've always had to overcome these hardships through unity, through oneness. And in recent times, that has been very, very challenging, despite the fact that we have the Divine Nine, sororities and fraternities, despite the fact that we have leaders, religious leaders such as Reverend Al Sharpton and Reverend Jesse Jackson, and now we have an emerging leader in our modern times, um, Attorney Benjamin Crump, who's doing solid work in the United States from the standpoint of civil rights. As a civil rights attorney, I definitely take my hat off to that brother. And I also take my hat off to the organization in these times that kind of stood up and sought to bring attention to some of the unjust killings and murders of foundational Black American boys and men, and that was Black Lives Matter. I give them a lot of credit. One of the Quid Pro Fro is an outgrowth of that, of community activism, of just speaking up for the betterment of our men and women, our future leaders, our future professionals. One of the areas that I saw in the leadership of today's time, again, is a lack of unification, a lack of oneness. But then I also saw another challenge, which I'm hoping Quid Pro Fro and Just Meditate TV can solve and resolve within reason. And what I saw, for example, with Black Lives Matter, I saw that they were doing the work. They were getting serious investments and contributions for the work they were doing, community activism, social justice work. But then what I saw was they were receiving a significant amount of money over the course of 5 years from 2015 to 2020, but the reinvestment into programs and activities that would be beneficial to foundational Black American boys and men, I saw that there was very little investment going back into, again, programs and activities that were beneficial, such as educating Black boys and young men about law enforcement, the role of law enforcement, bringing, the two together and just having a conversation and saying, hey, look, we have to come to some terms of how we're going to protect our communities, keep our communities safe, while at the same time we're gonna have to address things like endless profiling, racial profiling, and an intention to mass incarcerate folks who look like us. This is all historical. It's nothing new. That's what I would have wanted to see from Black Lives Matter, taking 90 something million dollars that was being invested and taking a significant portion of that. And again, investing in programs and activities that were beneficial to the individuals who were losing their lives versus taking that money and investing into LGBTQIA activities and programs, investing into endless programs that were beneficial to women and girls who we love and protect and provide for. But again, in 2020, we saw young Black boys and Black men being murdered. And there should have been reinvestment into the protection and the preservation of the lives, the integrity, and the dignity of who was losing their lives. And I didn't see that with Black Lives Matter. And I
So can I?
saw leadership
Yeah.
all over the place.
No, this is kind of something I think I resonate with this criticism too. But I still have this question that comes up because, like, if I was in a position of leadership at Black Lives Matter and I had all these funds coming into me, like, if I was the one deciding where to put those funds, the question would emerge in my mind too, like, where do I invest it? Because, and I think the reason I say I would have that same question, and maybe I would have did it better, maybe I would have did it worse, I don't know, but I'm quite sure that if the same thing happened to the Jewish community, they would have already known where to put it, where to go, because the community is so networked. It's like they know who's doing what, how much they need. It's a clear connection. The water's clear, and that's why I'm saying, like, I agree with that criticism, but it's like, if the water's not clear and you got a lot of stuff coming in one part that you want to give to the other parts, it's hard to tell where it goes. Like, and I think what we're trying to do right now with Just Meditate TV, this thing that you've created, Antoine, is kind of a lighthouse.
That's right.
In a dark night, you know, it's unclear, you know, where things are going to go, and this is one of many lighthouses. It's not the only one. There's many people, many groups that are trying to do what we're trying to do. And I think if all you got is one big lighthouse like Black Lives Matter, it's don't matter. It's not enough. You need a lot of these things. And and that's one thing I think we can learn from the Jewish community. We can learn that from them, is they function on the basis of many different lighthouses and communicating clearly. And that's something that I think, if once we start to embody that, this idea of what you've initiated, by starting the Just Meditate TV, the men's health podcast, and opening this thing up for other people who want to contribute to this idea, is you shined a very bright light. You shined a very bright light, and you're saying this is a place for all those who are close by in our vicinity. Come, this is a place where we're going to grow. We're going to build. Come, give, receive, take. Go, do what you need to do, but know that wherever you are, once you leave here, we're also asking you to be a lighthouse in whatever vicinity, whatever way you can. You know, it's not just about, one institution, one leader, one, individual who's going to lead our people to the promised land. You know, that is something we got to watch out for, the savior complex. What we need is to invest in the diaspora. We need lighthouses. We need traditions of rich cultures that are as diverse as Cuba, Brazil, Nigeria, Ghana, New York, LA. You know what I mean? Like, and I could go down the list. You know, India. You know, we can go down that list, and you see these lighthouses everywhere. And where this thing is starting is in the Black American tradition. And there are lighthouses. There are people who are doing things. 19 Keys, I think, is a really good example of somebody who's shining a bright light for people who want to invest in the Black community. And there are others like him. And I think what distinguishes people and organizations like that from, for better or for worse, something like Black Lives Matter, is the emphasis on creating more lighthouse, the emphasis on creating leaders, the emphasis on creating communities, as opposed to being spokespeople for a movement that's going to lead our people to the promised land. We don't need a Moses right now. We need a bunch of lighthouses. You know what I mean? And this is one that's shining really bright. And like you said, Antoine, we're asking people to get on board to help us. If you're close enough, if you like what we're doing, support what this is. because we
Right.
are trying to grow, as you've expressed, and we need to because our
Yes, sir.
people need it. They need to go back and build their own lighthouses. We want to be able to support the other lighthouses that we're in touch with. We need to have that bandwidth to do it.
Yep. That's it. And just really on that note, that's why it's very important for my audience, those who will see this, where there's a few things we're looking for support in. Number one, we're looking for as many sponsors as possible to this new heritage protection agency. Uh, Sponsors can be individuals, it could be public institutions, nonprofits, corporations. We're looking for that necessary support and alignment, whether it be in America or around the world. We're open to that. Secondly, we'll be developing a really robust e-commerce store. We'll have some merch and some products available as a way to build the capital of this this heritage protection agency. And there's a couple other things. Long term, our goal is to have a crypto meme coin, and to have an NFT signature collection made up of the digital art that comes from the digital art gallery of Just Meditate TV. So our goal right now is to increase our supporters, to increase our sponsors, and to increase the number of collaborators that we're working with so we can do this work. And Quid Pro Fro wants to make it 100% clear that though we support and have supported Black Lives Matter, one of the things that we look to do is when we receive the capital that's necessary to do our work, as opposed to reinvesting less than 20% back into programs and activities that will educate, that will train, and that will help better position foundational Black American boys and men in America and around the world. We're seeking to reinvest far more than 18 to 20%. We're seeking to invest anywhere from 82 to 78% of funds that come into Quid Pro Fro back into the community. That could be anything from investing in programs that are dedicated to helping boys and young men prepare for their ACT, SAT tests, which will qualify them as they're getting into universities. We're looking to invest in programs and activities that strengthen, again, young Black American men's ability to master aptitude tests like the LSAT to get into law school, the GMAT to get into business school, the GRE to get into PhD programs, and et cetera. These are some of the areas that we want to have strong investment in, such that our young boys, our young men are able to make these transitions from high school to college and university, from college and university right into the professional field as strong professionals who have long-term strong careers. This has to be intentional. Otherwise, we're going to keep getting the same results that we've been getting, which is a smaller proportion of our boys going into college, and then an even smaller proportion of our young men going from college and universities into long-term 20, 30-year professional careers, or as professionals, executive leaders, or becoming founders of their own companies. We need this success. We need to see this in our time. And again, Quid Pro Fro is a new heritage protection agency that's determined to bring accountability to how we're being invested in the United States. But also, Quid Pro Fro is, it wants to lead this charge in the United States, but also around the world, because we need it. We got to have it. And so on that note, Chance, I think we can bring this conversation to a close, but just in summary, there will be more conversations like that, like this to look forward to from yourself, from Delante, and from myself. Um, we can't stress enough how important it is for our viewers to support what we're doing, to partner with us, establish co-sponsorships with us, co-brand partnerships with us as we are new and we're looking to build so that we can evolve, and have the necessary impact that we seek to have again in the Western world, in the Caribbean, but also in places like Brazil, where the majority of our ancestors were taken during the transatlantic slave trade. The majority of our ancestors were taken to Brazil. That's why our culture is thoroughly um, baked into the country. And these history lessons are very important because we have a lot of um, members in our community that they're not aware of that. They're just not aware that was the case. And so we want our followers to learn. We want them to be active and invest in what we're doing. And last but not least, we're encouraging as many of our followers and viewers and subscribers to be a lighthouse yourself. We need more producers. We need more lighthouses. We got a big diaspora out here and so few teachers, so few conductors to make sure that we're playing our instruments on the same wavelength as a unified community and diaspora. And that's not easy, but it's worth putting in the time because those communities that do commit to oneness, that do commit to being unified, those communities are doing amazing. They have amazing lifestyles. They have amazing standards of living. High quality education is common sense. High quality infrastructure and quality of life is common sense. That's not something that they're reaching for. That's something that they're making their reality. And that's something that we can do as well. So on that note, brother, I'm so grateful for you to join the call today with Delante and I. And I look forward to more conversations like the one we have, whether it be shorter or a little longer, because I know for sure conversations like this is beneficial throughout our diaspora, man. So do
Yes,
you
sir.
have any last
Yes,
points?
sir. Yes, sir. No, I'm just I'm honored. I feel like we're positioning ourselves in a really uh, important place at this moment in history as brothers who have something worth saying and are committed to bringing our people together, coming back home. The idea is
Yes,
coming back
sir.
home. Let's come home. You need a lighthouse for it. Let's come home. So that's the idea, and it's an honor for me. It's an honor.
Absolutely, brother. Well, thank you. I totally agree with that. Let's come back home spiritually. Let's come back home culturally. Let's come back home intellectually, geopolitically, financially, economically. Let's come back home in a 360 way so that, the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years for our community, our diaspora is one that is experiencing reparation, one that's experiencing healing, one that's experiencing strength. These are things that we need to see within our lifetime. We need for our children and our grandchildren. Anything outside of that is totally out of bounds, and it gets two thumbs down from just meditate TV. So we want to be on the up and up. And on that note, thank you so much for tuning in to Quid Pro Fro to hear some of the conversation between Chance, myself, and Delante. And we'll catch you on the next one. Thank you so much.